Jhon Durán has become one of the best upcoming strikers in football today. At just 20 years old currently, he's making his presence known in the sports world. And with his amazing striking ability, thunderous left foot, good hold-up play, and immense self-belief, he has all the tools to become a key player for Aston Villa or any big club in the future, and of course the Colombian national team for the next 10 to 15 years. But how does Jhon Durán get to this point of stardom where he's become one of the biggest names in football this season, when it felt like a couple of seasons ago, nobody even knew who the hell he was? Well, let's take a look at the rise of Jhon Durán. I would like to announce that I have now created a new Discord server where I aim to build a thriving football community that is interested in just discussing the sport with like-minded people and also at the same time bond over the videos I made. It's basically like a hub for my community. So if you got a Discord and you're interested in joining, be sure to click the link at the top of my description and join the community. Alright, back to the video. Now, Jhon Durán was born on December 13th, 2003 in Zaragoza inside the department of Antioquia, the same department that also contains the big city Medellin. Now, throughout Durán's childhood years, he was obsessed with football and would play often on the streets of Colombia. Eventually, when Durán turned 11 years old, he participated in a Colombian youth football tournament where Wilbert Perea, the coach of a club called Envigado, saw him and scouted him to join his professional club. To give some context on the club Envigado, it's one of the best football clubs in the country in terms of giving youth players chances. In fact, according to the BBC, they were only behind Athletic Bilbao in the world for giving opportunities to youth players, and Envigado is the club responsible for developing a ton of Colombian footballers, like Juan Fernando Quintero, Matias Uribe, Freddy Guarin, and of course the most notable of them all, James Rodriguez, etc. Perea, the coach, convinced Durán to leave his smaller town and come to Medellin, one of the biggest cities in Colombia, to play for Envigado, and Durán obliged as long as his family was welcome to come too. As you can see, Jhon Durán is a family man, which is a great thing. The beginning of Durán's time at Envigado didn't start so well though. That's because Perea wanted Durán to also focus heavily on academics while playing football on the side. But Durán, you see, he didn't really like school too much. In fact, one time, Perea went to pick up Durán from school to get permission for him to play in a game, and a permit was necessary for that to happen. But Durán wasn't in the classroom. Instead, he was at home listening to reggaeton music. Perea was obviously pissed about this. I mean, who the hell skips out on school to listen to music? Well, to be fair, that does kind of seem like a vibe. But anyways, Perea described this incident as heated, and he said he almost grabbed Durán by the throat because he wasn't fulfilling his end of the deal, and that he loved football more than an exercise book or a pencil. But eventually, Durán will lock in, and he would start to excel in the Envigado Academy, especially after the coach Perea changed his position from winger to striker. That's when he would start to cook. Eventually, when Durán turned 15 years old, he broke into the Envigado first team, and he eventually became the second youngest player to score a Colombian top flight goal only 4 months before his 16th birthday. Eventually, Durán would start to gain some form in the Colombian first division, and in 47 games, he would bag 9 goals and 4 assists, which was very impressive for someone who was only around 15, 16, or 17 years old. And from here on out, Perea would say that he always knew Durán could become a great player and do great things. But Perea wouldn't be the only person who would see him playing football and realize that he'd become a big player, because so did a former Blackburn Rovers player, Sebastian Pelzer. If you were paying attention to the earlier parts of the video, you will remember how I said that Envigado has a good reputation for developing youth players. And obviously, this great reputation would catch the eyes of scouts, football sporting directors, etc. And with the MLS having extensive scouting networks in South America, especially in Colombia, where the Colombian immigrant community is the 6th largest in the US, it would only be inevitable that someone from the US would scout Jhon Durán. And it was Sebastian Pelzer, the guy who I mentioned earlier, from the Chicago Fire. Pelzer, who was the technical director of the MLS team for Chicago, went to Envigado to scout a teammate of Durán's, Carlos Duran, a center back. But while he was scouting him, he saw Jhon and realized how good this young striker was. Despite being a raw talent, he had a ton of speed and acceleration, and he was great in the air. From that one look alone, Pelzer realized that Durán could become a superstar, especially in the Premier League, because that's where his attributes suit him the best. Eventually, while the Chicago Fire was in the middle of scouting and negotiating with Durán and his family, The Guardian included him in the 60 of the best young talents in world football list in October 2020, and this would obviously garner the attention of some of the biggest clubs in the world. But some of the top European clubs weren't convinced of his talent yet, and with moving to America being a good move for Durán and his family, he would sign to the Chicago Fire at just 17 years old for a fee of $2.5 million, becoming the youngest international signing in MLS history. However, Durán wouldn't be able to join the Chicago Fire until he turned 18 years old, so he stayed at Envigado for 1 more year on loan. And then finally, in January 2022, Jhon Durán's time at Chicago Fire would begin. Initially, however, the first half of the season was rough for Jhon Durán. Obviously, he was playing in a brand new country for the first time, and in a country where he doesn't know the language, so it was bound to be difficult. But even though he only managed to score a singular goal in the first few months of his time with the Fire, he showed a lot of his raw talent. And with his hard work and training and on the pitch, it would only be a matter of time before things would start to click for him. And they would in the second half of the 2022 MLS season. Although the Chicago Fire were straight booty cheeks and finished low in the MLS table, like literally in 12th place in the Eastern Conference, Jhon Durán would cook, and he would score 2 goals against Toronto in their 2-0 win, 2 goals against Inter Miami in their 3-1 win, 1 goal against Charlotte in a home 3-2 loss, and then went away to Cincinnati and bagged 2 goals, winning 3-2. And with 8 goals and also 6 assists in 28 games, Jhon Durán would end his MLS campaign as the club's top goal scorer. But even with his goal scoring stats not being at the highest, he was still a very young player showing a ton of potential. I mean, he was literally 18 years old during the season and he bagged 8 goals. Clearly some potential was being shown. And of course, this is when top European clubs were starting to take more notice of him and realize that he could actually be the real deal. But out of all of them, Aston Villa were the ones showing the most effort to try and sign him. And Villa's strong pursuit of him would eventually pay off, because in January 2023, Unai Emery, the manager of Aston Villa, made Duran his second signing, bringing the then teenager to the Birmingham-based club for an initial fee of £14.75 million with a further £3 million in add-ons. Although the Chicago Fire is a meme,
do you expect now that you're here, Bastian, that a World Cup goal for Chicago Fire is a realistic expectation?
They've done incredible business here. They signed him for £1.5 million and sold him for $14.75 within a year. That's great business. And initially, it seemed like the Chicago Fire robbed Aston Villa too, because Jhon Durán joined mid-season for Aston Villa in the 22-23 campaign, and for the remainder of the season, he played 12 games, around 10 minutes per game, and got a grand total of 0 goal contributions. Yeah, the start for Jhon Durán wasn't the greatest, but he was given his Colombian national team debut, and he even scored his first and only goal for his country in their 2-1 win away to Japan, so he did have something to be proud of from his first 6 months with Villa. But anyways, as y'all probably expected, the 23-24 season will be different for Jhon Durán, and he would show glimpses of his world-class talent in this campaign. But before we talk about that, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall, just to get to know me more. And also, make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams coming soon. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow on all of these social platforms. Thank you. In the Conference League, he would score twice. Once in the group stages against Legia Warsaw in their 3-2 loss away from home, but then scored once in their 4-0 win over Ajax in the round 16. Then in the Premier League, he would score his first goal in the division against Everton in their 4-0 win, and a couple weeks later, he would add another one and score in Villa's 3-1 win over Palace. However, he would go on a big goal drought for a large part of the season, due to a hamstring injury that kept him out for around a month and a half, and also the fact that he was getting pity minutes off the bench, like 1 minute against Tottenham, 1 minute against Man City, 4 minutes against Man United, 8 minutes against Burnley, etc. Clearly, he was having a tough time trying to get minutes ahead of the red-hot Ollie Watkins, who was having himself an enormous season, bagging 27 goals and 13 assists in 53 games overall. But eventually, in the last month of the season, Jhon Durán would showcase how great he could be, with him scoring Villa's only goal against Man City in their 4-1 loss, and then scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes against Liverpool at home from 3-1 down to secure a crucial point in Villa's top 4 hopes, which they eventually got, and a huge thanks has to go to Jhon Durán for that for sure. Anyways, overall for the 23-24 season, Jhon Durán would bag 8 goals and 0 assists in 37 games. But remember, Durán was 19 years old during this. He was still a teenager, so for him to bag 8 goals in his first full season at that young of an age is still impressive nevertheless. But over the summer, Jhon Durán would try to seek game time elsewhere, and he caused a ton of controversy with Aston Villa because of this. In June, right before the season ended, Jhon Durán was actually in advanced negotiations with Chelsea and he was ready for the move. After all, in January of 2023, 90 minutes before a game against Chelsea, Durán congratulated his fellow Colombian Mario Ramirez on the move to Chelsea with blue hearts on his social media. And this was during a time where Chelsea were interested in signing him, and it was public news. So obviously, Villa fans were pissed. But then, Durán started negotiating more seriously with Chelsea in June before the Euros. However, the deal failed because Conor Gallagher did not want to go to Aston Villa, so Durán's move to Chelsea was in the mud. But this isn't the end of the drama, because towards the middle of the summer, Jhon Durán was very interested in joining West Ham, and apparently, personal terms were agreed with the London club as well. Then, in an Instagram live, he crossed his arms to imitate West Ham's orange logo to confirm the suspicions that he wanted to move away to the Hammers. However, Villa didn't sell him, despite the backlash from the internet and his eagerness to move elsewhere. You see, Aston Villa saw Jhon Durán as a top talent that they couldn't let go of, and they were eager for him to stay on track with their project and his time would come. Unai Emery stepped in as well, and told Durán his plans for him and how Jhon could excel under him, and eventually, Durán will listen, and he even signed a contract extension as of late with increased pay. And to be honest, Jhon Durán made the right choice, because in this 24-25 season, he's cooking. In the first game of the season against West Ham, the team that Jhon Durán almost signed for in the summer, he came off the bench with 20 minutes to play, and he ended up scoring the winner against West Ham away from home to secure a 2-1 dub. Durán owned the team that he almost signed for. That's nasty, nasty work.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Then against Leicester City away from home, in Villa's third game of the season, Jhon Durán came off the bench again with 29 minutes of time left in the game, and Durán would score Villa's second of the match to secure a 2-1 win for the Villains. Then in the following week against Everton, Jhon Durán would come off the bench yet again with 21 minutes of game time left. This game was a little bit different though, because Everton actually had a 2-0 lead in the game, and then Ollie Watkins scored 2 goals to bring the game back level. All they needed was a winner. And of course, Jhon Durán came to save them in stunning fashion, scoring a worldy long-range winner in the 76th minute to secure a 3-2 win for Aston Villa. This might be the goal of the season, and at the time of recording this, we're only like 9 games into the Premier League season. That's crazy. It doesn't stop here though, because off the bench against Wolves with only 28 minutes, he scored another goal to make it 4 goals out of 5 Premier League games at the time. He did fail to score against Ipswich and Man United though as of recent, but in the first start of the campaign against Wycombe Wanderers in the Carabao Cup, he scored in the 2-1 win, so there's that. But we're still not finished, because we got the Champions League left, and my oh my, has he stole the show in Europe's most elite competition as well. So basically, Aston Villa returned to the Champions League after 41 years, and their first game at home in the campaign was against Bayern Munich, a 6-time Champions League winner and the overall biggest club in Germany. This was going to be a matchup for the ages, but it actually was a stalemate for a majority of the game. That was until Jhon Durán came on with 20 minutes left to play. Eventually, in the 79th minute, Jhon Durán gets sent to long ball, and despite the defender being right on him, he somehow sensed Neuer being off the line, and just hit the ball towards the net, and somehow in some way, it went in to put Villa ahead in the match. But that's not it, because Villa held on to the lead, and Jhon Durán's goal would be the all-important one in a famous 1-0 victory at home against the biggest club in Germany. That's insane. Durán even said in an interview after with his CBS Champions League crew that he didn't even see Neuer off the line. He was just crazy enough to go for the shot and it went in. This guy is built different mentally and physically. That's how I know that this guy's going to be a top striker for years to come. Plus this season, he's having better stats than his competition Ollie Watkins, with Durán averaging a goal every 46 minutes in the Premier League this season, and has scored 6 goals so far out of 10 games, with 5 out of those 6 goals coming off the bench. He's a modern day Divock Origi for now. This is wild. While Watkins on the other hand this season only has 4 goals in 9 games, with him starting for every single goal he scored. This is why Unai Emery and Aston Villa were so desperate to keep Jhon Durán around, because they saw his potential and realized that this dude could probably become one of the best strikers in the world in the future. The problem is, he keeps twerking for other clubs. Like, he started praising Bayern a little too much after that game and saying that he could see himself joining the club in the future. But we'll let that go for now, because he's currently employed by Aston Villa, and Unai Emery's got a gem on his hands. I'm excited to see what's more to come for Durán. Like I said, he's only 20 years old, and it's still very early on in his career. But this season, he's taken his game to a whole nother level, and I'm eager to see what's going to happen with his career for the years to come, club-wise and for the Colombian national team. Anyways, I hope you guys learned a thing or two in this video, and if you enjoyed it, please remember to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Also, follow my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and join my Discord server. All the links are in the description. Last but not least, if you want to learn about an international rivalry that initially doesn't make any sense, aka Argentina versus Netherlands, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.